game of, I think, for both teams, their entire season. You got Texas rolling into College Station, playing Texas A&M. The first time we have this rivalry now since 2011. As if this game needed any more juice. Like, you could have both teams rolling in with one win, and this game would still have a ton of electricity around it. But the fact that the winner in this game goes to Atlanta, for A&M, if they lose this football game, they're out. Like, the only path to the college football playoff is through Atlanta by winning the SEC, and if they win in the SEC championship, they have a first-round bye in the college football playoff. So stakes are enormous. Now, for Texas, a week ago it looked like a win-and-in situation or a losing-your-out situation, elimination status. I don't think that's the case right now with all the chaos across the SEC, but still, man, I mean, just the overall smoke this rivalry has had even since they last played it. I said this during our early look video we put out on Sunday when it comes to this matchup. This rivalry has not lost any juice just because they haven't played. You put out a Texas tweet from anything about college football in relation to them having success, have nothing to do with A&M. Have a bunch of Aggies in the mentions. Vice versa for A&M. If you put out a Texas A&M tweet, you have a bunch of people from Texas jumping in there and saying their 2 cents on how they feel about the Aggies as it relates to their lack of success to their Longhorns. So I'm excited to break this one down, man. 7:30 Eastern, ABC, Kyle Field. The line with this game has been plummeting. Sunday morning, it was at 7.5. Then it dropped to 6.5. All the way down to 5.5, favoring the Longhorns on the road in College Station. Quinn Ewers, worth noting, ankle, a little bit dinged up. Sounds like he's going to be good. There's not going to be any situation where he is, having to miss any time, just a little extra treatment during the week. Keep an eye on that one, though, because the Texas A&M front seven have a funny feeling they will dial it up when it comes to the formatting of their game plan for this game. But speaking about A&M, man, what I think they're going to look like offensively, for me, when we speak about the Aggies, the less Marcel Reed dependent you are in this football game, the better chance you have to win. Now, I say that not in any way a slight to Marcel Reed. I think when you look at the way you can win this football game if you're Texas A&M, you cannot put it all on your redshirt freshman quarterback, your first-year starting quarterback, and expect him to be the reason why you win the football game. And again, super talented, but I think the way you beat this Texas defense, which is one of the best in America, is you have to kind of have some creativity plus like this leaky roof kind of approach, if you will. And what I mean by that is like you have to be able to maximize what Marcel Reed is as a runner and as a passer. The best way to do that, by having something on the ground with Amari Daniels. When you have that split second of hesitation from the linebacking core of Texas, being able to gash them for a big-time run. You have to have Noah Thomas win his one-on-one matchups on the perimeter at receiver. You got to have Jahdae Walker go win his matchups. I mean, you got to be able to have Jabri Barber, be able to have some success and separate on third down. So I don't think it has to be a situation where everybody just goes off, but it has to be a thing where Texas has enough to worry about. Same thing with the leaky roof. I'm cool if I got one hole in the roof and I have to put a bucket there and I got to wait till the next day to patch it up. But if we have a leaky roof in the living room, we have a leak from the roof in the kitchen, we got a leak from the roof in the bathroom, like at some point in time, one, you run out of buckets, and two, the roof caves in. Could that be the way that A&M plays this football game and wins this football game? Speaking of creativity, I like the personnel of A&M offensively. I don't know if I like them straight up against this Texas defense. So all that's to say, I need some eye candy, all right, Colin Klein? Need some window dressing here, baby. Need us to kind of a little play action, give us some jet sweeps, get the eyes working of that Texas second-level defense. And at that point in time, now that's how the big plays can happen if you're A&M offensively. So that's the key for A&M offensively. Have some creativity, maximize Marcel Reed, get everybody else involved. Doesn't have to be a Noah Thomas 200-yard receiving game, but it does have to be Noah Thomas. You're worried about him on the perimeter. You're worried about the run game. You're worried about Marcel Reed with his legs. It cannot be a run, drop back pass on 3rd and 6 kind of situation. Got to live in 3rd and short. Got to be able to keep this Texas defense on their heels. That would be the way that A&M would win this football game. College football sickos, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. Game predictions like this one, analysis, signing day around the corner, make sure you're locked in. This show brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. Free pick for Thanksgiving weekend. You got Tyreek Hill, 99% off. He gets a half-yard receiving. That cashes. Pair it with another square. You're off to the races. So use code HARDCOUNT. Playing $5 in lineups gets you $50 in promo funds. Again, over at prizepicks.com using code HARDCOUNT. Now back to the prediction. Now, speaking of Texas on the offensive side, this is the foxhole. Okay, like the Georgia game, I think I don't know if exposed some things about Texas, but it definitely gave us a pretty good blueprint as to how to beat Texas, and it starts up front. Like, Georgia got after them to the tune of 7 sacks on the day. And that was how Quinn Ewers sputtered, and that was how the offense sputtered, and that was how ultimately Georgia won the football game. A&M, make no mistake about it, is, I believe, on par with what Georgia has up front on the defensive line. You got the Shamar brothers, you got Nick Scorton. Like, they have enough to apply pressure and get Quinn Ewers off of his spot. So going back to this Foxhole game, the good news if you're a Texas fan, who you have in the Foxhole with you is an experienced quarterback in Quinn Ewers, no stranger to the big moments, played in the college football playoff game, played in the Big 12 title game, went to Tuscaloosa and slayed the Dragon, all that. And then you have, I think, what most people would consider the best, if not one of the best, play callers in the entire sport. So for Steve Sarkisian now, I don't think it's a situation where you're able to call your standard drop-back passing game just because of what I said, the A&M defense, they're going to get after you. That's what Mike Elko does, is what this defense does. So in that response, you got to give Quinn Ewers some answers in the pre-snap. Like, we got to be able to have something we can go to right away. We see it second and 4, 2nd and 7, whatever you want to dial up there. You feel good about where you're going with the football right away. He's not rushing, because if it's a thing where we have to drop back and then Quinn Ewers has to use that ankle a little bit, he's already not the most mobile guy in the world to begin with. That's a situation where A&M can kind of hunt a little bit. They can get after you. So I also think, how we spoke to the creativity of A&M, I think you need the same thing for Texas. Like, the game plan we saw from Texas against Michigan, where they're going lateral, they're going deep, and then after that, once they wear down that Michigan front seven, they start to run the football. That could be the same way that Texas approaches this game for their matchup against the A&M defense, because A&M, as good as their defense is throughout the course of this year, 6 of the last 8 games, they have allowed a pass play of over 50 yards. All right, so translation, they're solid. However, every now and then you can catch them slipping. And if you catch this A&M defense slipping a little bit, that's the advantage for Texas to start to pour it on. I like Marcel Reed a lot. I don't like him in chase mode. I don't like this A&M offense without a Le'Veon Moss to have to try to come back from 21 down like they did against Auburn. Texas is not going to let you back in the game that way. So in response to that, I need some misdirection. I need some shots deep. I need Quinn Ewers in rhythm. If it turns into a game like we saw against Georgia, like we saw against Arkansas, where Quinn Ewers is trying to find it and we're in the second quarter and he's got a 50% completion percentage or right around there and he's got a pick or whatever, at that point in time, what Texas has done and had success doing is fall back on the run game. That offensive line is phenomenal going north and south. Those running backs, Trey Weissner most notably, has been a dog for them this year. I don't think you can just sit back and run the ball against this Texas A&M front seven. I don't think that's the way that you win this football game. So what I think we see in this football game is I think we see the Texas defense be really stout up front. The offensive line for A&M against Auburn made me a little bit nervous. Not that they weren't able to move the football on the ground, but it just felt so frequently like Marcel Reed's dropping back and he's got 3 or 4 dudes getting after him. That's not a way that you win against Texas. That's not throwing any shade against Auburn and their lack of success getting after Marcel Reed and getting him on the ground, but I don't think Texas has that same issue. I also think the Texas secondary is one of the best in America. I mean, they're number 1 in the country, I believe, when it comes to yards per pass allowed for a game, or at least they're top 2. So that matchup of limiting the Texas A&M run game from the Texas front seven, putting it on your first-year starting quarterback in Marcel Reed against this plucky Texas secondary, I'm going to go ahead and take Texas. I'm going to take them close. I think it's low scoring-ish. Both teams under 30. I'll take Texas to win a close one in College Station. Final score 27-24. I like the experience of Quinn Ewers. I like the play calling of Steve Sarkisian. I like the maturity of this Texas roster, bringing back top 25 production in all of college football. I think that's the difference. I would not touch the spread if it were me. But again, I will take Texas to win and A&M to cover. The fact that we have this game back now is nothing short of elite. And I can't wait to watch it. That's going to be the game of the weekend. There's no way around it. We'll be dialed in.